Hold up. Wait a minute. I wish you love, peace, and hair grease.
Love, peace, and hair grease, y'all.
Yeah, you know I'm shooting straight from the hip.
This is Carla Renata, aka the Curvy Critic, and I shoot straight from the hip.
Yeah, you know I'm shooting straight from the hip.
Hi, everybody. Hello. It's your girl, Carla Renata, aka the Curvy Film Critic, coming to you back live from LA. I have been jet setting, baby. But if this is your first time joining me, please give me a big thumbs up to let me know you were here, okay? If you are returning to the channel, let me tell you what your girl does. I do film reviews and I talk to people every once in a while above and below the line in the film industry, okay? Okay. So I told y'all I've been just sitting and doing some things, but before I get to what I did last week, let me get to these comments and talk to my boy Brandon, because he's always there for me. He goes, "Hey, Curvy." You know, I find it funny that people will call me Curvy like it's my first name, but I'll take it. He says, "Hey, Curvy, just wanted to pop in and say I've been doing great in my animation classes and passed my first 2 assignments, and I'm doing a drawing session with my mentor on Wednesday." He also tells me that he watched the season 6 premiere of his favorite anime, My Hero Academia, and it's good. Also, new episodes of The Loud House and his favorite Halloween animated stuff, including Peanuts. He's also been working on his web comic at the same time while he's at animation college. Let me tell you something about Brandon. Brandon has been following me since I was all the way over at Black Hollywood Live. He's loyal, he's true, he's very enthusiastic, and he sends me drawings of animated movies when they come out, and oftentimes I will post them on the show. So I always give him some love because he gives me love right back. So thank you, Brandon. I hope you had fun in class tonight. Yay! Insti-hoo. So let me tell you what I did last week. So I started out the week. What did I start my week out doing? Let's see. Oh yeah. So I started out the week doing this lovely Q&A for Neon at the London Hotel in Los Angeles. It was for a film called Triangle of Sadness, which is playing at the New York Film Festival, and I will get to that in a minute. But this young lady, Dolly DeLeon, who plays Abigail, is a beast in this movie, honey, and I can't wait to tell y'all all about it. I also got some love from the Cherry Picks when I put this review up of Tyler Perry's latest movie that I told y'all about at the TIFF Film Festival, the Toronto International Film Festival. That is the quote of what I said about his movie, A Jazz Man's Blues, on Cherry Picks. And it's gotten a 70% score with the Cherry Picks. I don't know what score it's gotten with Rotten Tomatoes, but I'll let you know. And basically, I've seen it. And then I went to New York, thanks to Netflix, to attend the opening night of the 60th anniversary of the New York Film Festival, and I'll get into that in a minute. But White Noise was the opening night film. It is based on a book. It was directed by Noah Baumbach and written and produced by him as well. This is a photo from that night in the Alice Tully Hall at Lincoln Center with all of the cast members. My girl with the pink hair is Jodie Turner-Smith. She was bringing it. But that's a crazy film. I'll tell y'all about it in a minute, but it was crazy as hell. And then I hopped over, as if I didn't have enough to do, I hopped on over to see Hadestown. Some of you may or may not know, but I do voiceovers, and I'm the voice of Hadestown for their marketing campaign ads, their commercials. And so they were gracious enough to get me a house seat for Hadestown, where I went to see my good girlfriend, Lilias White, play the role of Hermes, which was previously played by Tony-winning actor Andre DeShields, who has now gone on to be in Death of a Salesman on Broadway with Wendell Pierce, which is about to open, I think in a week or so they're opening up. So there's that. And then I flew back to LA and attended the Young Artists Academy Awards, or the Young People Academy Awards, where I was a presenter at that. And thank you, Getty Images, for taking such a beautiful picture of me in my little pink dress. I love that little pink dress. And that was about it, y'all. I was running and doing some things and carrying on, but I did want to tell you about that. So when I get into this conversation about the New York, let me put myself back on camera so that you can see me. When I get into this conversation about the New York Film Festival, I want to tell you a couple of things about it first, because this was my first time attending, and it was the 60th anniversary. So I was super, super excited about that. It goes until October 16th. So I think I'm going to pop back into New York and catch the tail end of it, because due to medical things and some other stuff, I wasn't able to stay through the whole time. Who is this saying hello to me? It's Brandon. And before I get into that, Brandon said he's also been watching the season premieres of The Simpsons, Bob Burgers, Great North, and Family Guy. Thank you, Brandon. You know I love you. So, all right. So we were talking about the New York Film Festival, and I was about to tell y'all some things about that. So the New York Film Festival has been around for 60 years. I know. And it's one of those film festivals that is very well respected, but it's not like Sundance or Tribeca or TIFF or Telluride or Venice or anything like that. It's a little smaller of a festival, but it's a festival that celebrates what it is to be in New York. It was first held in 1963, and it featured films from the United States and countries from all over the world. Its organizer at that time, Richard Roud, had been inspired by the success of the London Film Festival, for which he served as a program director. So that's a little bit of insight into what's happening with the New York Film Festival. Oh, and before I continue, I have the entire cast of The Luckiest Girl Alive, including the director, Mike Barber, its star Mila Kunis, the young lady who plays young Ani, and Kiara, and Jessica Noonan. I think Jessica's last name is Noonan. Please forgive me if I misspoke, but I know her first name is Jessica. But it's based on a story of hers, is in the book by the same name. But I have all of them toward the middle or the end of the broadcast tonight. So I can't wait for y'all to see it. Yay. And not for nothing, but if y'all saw my previews on social media, Mila Kunis said that I'm her new favorite outlet. So you heard it here first. Mila Kunis said the Curvy Critic with Carla Renata is her new favorite outlet. Just saying. All right. So there are a lot of must-sees that people should see if you're in New York City and you're watching this at the New York Film Festival. They sell tickets at Lincoln Center. Most of the films are playing at Alice Tully Hall. They're showing films in all 5 boroughs this year. So you can see films in all 5 boroughs and not just Manhattan. There's a list of all of the boroughs, including the Brooklyn Academy of Music, that they are playing at. If you go to the film festival site, you can get all of that information there. All right. So having said that, in addition to the films that I've already seen, Tar, Triangle Sadness, Till, and White Noise, here are some must-see films that you guys might want to check out if you're in New York. There's a film called All the Beauty and Bloodshed, and this is a documentary by Academy Award-winning Laura Poitras of Citizen4 fame, who explores both the downfall of the Sackler family, the founders of the pharmaceutical companies that associate with the opioid epidemic, and the life and career of artist Nan Golden, who fought against those said companies. The Inspection, I told you guys about that at TIFF, is a really strong first cinematic role off the small screen for Jeremy Pope, because remember, he did Hollywood for Ryan Murphy during the pandemic on Netflix. This is based on takes place and is based partly on Ellis French, a gay Marine Corps dude who's in boot camp in Parris Island in South Carolina, who becomes a target of hazing practices from his training instructor, Leland Laws, played by Bokeem Woodbine, and recruit Lawrence Harvey, Raul Castillo, because of his sexual orientation. Gabrielle Union stars as his mother, Inez French, and she is crushing it. She is doing the daggum thing. I hope that they give her some love. Armageddon Time is another film you should keep an eye out for. It's set in Queens in 1980. But hold on, I see there's some people in the chat room. Let me see who's over here so I can say hello and see who's up and through here. Oh, it's Brandon. He's still talking to me. He also says the new episode of Hamster and Gerda. He's seeing that, and he's also seeing a New York. This week is New York Comic Con too, and there's going to be a Cartoon Network panel and many more animation panels. And apparently, they're getting the first trailer for Illumination's Mario there too. So I always count on Brandon to give me my animation news. Thank you, Brandon. So I will go on and continue with what I was talking about before. So I was talking about Armageddon Time at the New York Film Festival that's celebrating its 60th year. It is set in Queens in 1980 when sixth grader Paul Graff, played by Banks Repetta, dreams of becoming an artist while striking a friendship with his black classmate Johnny, played by Jalen Webb, who is dealing with a racist teacher. Jeremy Strong and Anne Hathaway stars Graff's parents, worried about their son while trying to navigate their Jewish American identities in New York. The great Anthony Hopkins, baby, is playing Graff's grandfather, whom he shares a very close bond with. And last but not least, I just cherry picked some things because these are some films that I'm probably going to see myself and wanted to let you know about them. And then when they go into wide release or national release, I'll let you know when they're being released so that you can see them too. But right now, these films that I'm speaking of, they're only at the film festival, but they are going to be released sooner than later. All right. So the last one I wanted to tell you about is Master Gardener. Joel Edgerton is Narvel Roth, the head horticulturist at Gracewood Gardens, a historic estate of one of Norma Haverhill's, played by Sigourney Weaver. When Haverhill's grandniece Maya, played by Quintessa Swindle, shows up, though, the balance between the two characters shift, potentially affecting the future of Gracewood Gardens. Ooh, that sounds intense, don't it? I can't wait to see that. But I am going to give you a review, and please know that the reviews that I put up, that I talk about rather here, I also put a written version up on thecurvyfilmcritic.com. Thecurvyfilmcritic.com. Curvy is spelled Curvy, no E, Curvy, filmcritic.com. I always put the written version of anything that I speak about here on this podcast on my website so that you guys can read the reviews in their entirety. All right. So having said that, let's talk a little bit about White Noise. White Noise was the opening film at the New York Film Festival, like I said before, and it's directed, written, and produced by Noah Baumbach. It stars Adam Driver, one of my faves, Greta Gerwig, Noah's wife, who's also a brilliant filmmaker and actress and writer in her own right, Don Cheadle, Rafferty Cassidy, and Logan Fry. Now, when I was at the opening night celebration a few days ago, Logan Fry is this German guy in the film who's very eccentric and very good in the film. But he spoke about how excited he was to be at the New York Film Festival. He never thought in his wildest dreams that he would get to be in a film with Noah Baumbach. And then he talked about his self-tape because, if you're an actor, we know all about these self-tapes right now. He talked about how he did his self-tape for this film on the bathroom floor and that it looked crazy and that he looked crazy doing it. But it wasn't so crazy because there he is getting cast in the film, and now he's at the New York Film Festival. So for those people that are actors that are watching this, baby, just know those self-tapes are not in vain, and one day you could be at a New York Film Festival directed by somebody like a Noah Baumbach, a Spike Lee, a Denzel Washington, or whoever else your dreams and desires are put out toward that you want to work with. So I just want to say that. It's a really, really dark comedy, and this is what it's about. It's based on a book by the same name, and apparently this book has a huge cult following. It dramatizes a contemporary American family's attempts to deal with the mundane conflicts of everyday life while grappling with the universal mysteries of love, death, and the possibility of happiness in an uncertain world. I went to the press conference for this, and Noah spoke graphically about how this was something that he wrote during the pandemic. A lot of the movies that are coming out now are films that were either written during the pandemic or thought about during the pandemic or something of that nature. So you can tell that this is a pandemic film when you watch it because it's a really dark comedy, and it encompasses all kind. It deals with indiscretions, in terms of cheating and marital indiscretions. It deals with opioid abuse. It deals with all kinds of things. But the one moment in this film that did it for me was a moment with Adam Driver and Greta Gerwig when she tries to tell him about an indiscretion that she had because she was trying to just get this medication, these pills that she needed so desperately. And it speaks to the whole opioid crisis. You know, a lot of people during the pandemic, some of them were quarantined alone for 2 years. They turned to whatever they needed to turn to get through the days, to get through the nights, to get through the months, the years, the whatever. So in that respect, I think it's a really smart film. There's a dance number at the end of the movie, which is ridiculous and crazy, but it's fascinating nonetheless. The use of colors, it looks like he used like it's like Skittles colors. They're very bright, like orange, yellow, red, really, really bright colors that are used throughout the film. And it's composed by Danny Elfman, who incidentally has scored over 110 movies. Just let that sit for a second. He has scored over 110 movies. That is bananas. White Noise is a crazy movie. I'm still not sure how I feel about this film. It's crazy, it's eccentric, but the book is crazy and eccentric. And so I guess in that way, it kind of stays in line with what the book is. But this film doesn't drop in theaters until December. But it did open up the New York Film Festival, which is why I'm talking about it, because I was at the New York Film Festival and I have been approved to cover that festival. This is why I'm talking about it. So I will talk about it again some more, a little more in depth in December when it drops. But I just wanted to let you know what's going on with that film. Till is another film that dropped. I've spoken about Till before because I'm very passionate about this film. And let me just say that a lot of people will see this film. It's already, even after being at the New York Film Festival, it's already getting, camp, yay, I like it, and camp, I'm not so sure. Mostly because, and I'm just going to say this, and I don't know if this is true or not, but I feel like a lot of people are wanting to see this film and they want to see the violence or the discretions imposed upon Black people, i.e., Emmett Till, in this film. His own family didn't get to see what happened to him. So why do we need to see that in a movie? We don't. And so Janoye Chukwu, who is the director and producer and writer of the film, made the conscious choice to not do that and to focus more on the mother and son relationship, the mother-son love story, and how she raised him to be a good son, and how she raised him to take pride in what he looks like and take pride in how he carries himself in this world as her son, while she can still save him, and not save him, while she can still look out for him, because there's going to come a day in the world where he's going to grow up and she's not going to be able to do that. And unfortunately, as we all know, he never had an opportunity to grow up. So this film is profoundly emotional, it's extremely cinematic, and it's the true story of Mamie Till Mobley's relentless pursuit for justice for her 14-year-old son, Emmett Till, who in 1955 was lynched while visiting his cousins in Mississippi. It's Mamie's poignant journey of grief turned to action, and we see the universal power of a mother's ability to change the world. Let me also note that when this happened to Emmett Till in the 50s, the Civil Rights Act hadn't been passed. This was 1955. The Civil Rights Act didn't get passed until the early 60s, right? So this incident alone was very largely influential on how the the Civil Rights Act got passed. So Mamie Till Mobley was very good with mobilizing people about that bill because she didn't want to see, what happened to her son happen to somebody else. There's also the fact that at the end of the movie, they talk about how the anti-lynching bill hadn't been passed until recently. This happened in 1955. This is 2022. And I think that bill passed in either 2021 or 2020. That's a travesty and it's a shame and disgrace. But that is the country that we're living in. Let me also note that I happened to be watching The View this morning, and Whoopi Goldberg called out a journalist who, for lack of a better way of saying this particular journalist went on to talk about how they were distracted by Whoopi's fat suit. And Whoopi went on The View this morning to say, yeah. So by the way, that wasn't a fat suit. That was me. And if you were distracted by that, if you want to talk about my acting, fine, but you don't need to talk about how I look. Talk about the film, talk about the acting, talk about everything else, but you don't need to talk about how I look. To her credit, because she a class act, she never mentioned the person's name. She never mentioned the outlet's name, because she knows the power of her words, and that she's on television every day on a national platform where her words could cause somebody to get canceled unnecessarily. I will say that particular outlet snatched that sentence out of the review right after that episode of The View aired. So I'm saying all of this to say that for those of you that are going to see Till, which is going to officially drop on October 14th, when you see and it is a Universal Artists MGM joint. It is, and let me just say this, Alana Mayo is the president of UA MGM Studios. She is a Black woman. Nicole Brown is a Black woman. We know that Whoopi Goldberg is Black, and we know that Chinoya Chukwu is Black. All of these Black women have gotten together to produce a very poignant, touching, brilliantly done film about a Black woman who lost her son simply due to the color of his skin and a lie that was told. A lie that the person that told it is still living and will never be held accountable for her actions. So I'm just going to say that. I'm very passionate about this film. I'm a big champion of this film. I think it's a story that needs to be told, because I feel like if you ignore history and you don't talk about it and you act like it didn't happen, then it keeps repeating itself, as we have seen over and over and over again. But this is one thing that I'm really hoping never gets repeated in our history ever again. I don't ever want to hear anybody using the word lynching or talking about the word lynching after they see this film, because it's not necessary. But what is necessary is to talk about this woman's love of her son and how she took her grief and turned it into a positive thing and didn't let it be all consuming with her life and her spirit. That is what Till is about. It is playing at the New York Film Festival. If you are in New York City, do yourselves a favor and catch a screening if you can. What else? Oh, Tar. Let me talk about Tar. Ooh, baby. Tar. Well, actually, let me talk about Triangle Sadness first. I'll talk about Triangle Sadness. I told y'all that Dolly De Leon was in this movie and that she played Abigail, and it was a situation. But let me tell you what Triangle of Sadness about. Triangle of Sadness is a neon film. It's directed by Ruben Östlund, who's known for Force Majeure and The Square. It's going to drop on October 1st. Well, it dropped on October 1st, sorry. And it stars Woody Harrelson as the captain, Dolly De Leon as Abigail, Charles B. Dean as Yaya, and Vicky Berlin as Paula, the captain's assistant, and Alicia Erickson as Alicia. This is a film about a cruise for the super rich that sinks, leaving the survivors, including a fashion model celebrity couple, trapped on an island. Let me tell you something about this movie. It's another one like White Noise. It's a little crazy, but it will make, this is the mark of a really truly great film, is one that makes you think. I used to work on cruise ships, and this is enough to make me never go on a cruise ship ever again in my life, because I was like, oh, but no, I don't ever need to see those shenanigans happening again. So there's that. And let's just talk about Ruben Östlund. If you saw Force Majeure, it's the same feeling. He made you, in Force Majeure, dealt with an avalanche and how the after effects of this avalanche affected all these people after the fact. What he did with Force Majeure is what he does for the cruise industry with Triangle of Sadness. And just so you know, I asked why the title Triangle of Sadness, and there is a moment in the beginning of the film where these models are being sent on a go see for a gig, and the Triangle of Sadness is this part of your face. this part right here in between your eyes. That's considered the triangle of sadness. When I found out that that's what it was, I hollered out loud because that was funny to me. But I digress. Anyway, this film is a huge statement on how white privilege can backfire on you when you have to rely on the help and realize that the help is a little smarter and savvier than you thought they were. When I tell you Dolly De Leon as Abigail is the truth, Miss Thing is the truth. She is getting down. She's a Filipino actress. I've never seen Filipino actresses given these types of roles where they're allowed to be more than a stereotype. And I was like, snaps and claps to you, Osland, for casting her in this role. I also want to pay homage to Charles B. Dean because Charles B. Dean, unfortunately, is no longer with us. And so but her part in this film bears speaking about because she was brilliant in the movie. But it's a crazy film. It's a crazy little ride. I suggest you check it out. Again, this is another film that's playing at the New York Film Festival. Tar is another film that's playing at the New York Film Festival. It's going to drop on October 7th in a few days. It is directed and written and produced by Todd Field, and it stars the wonderful Cate Blanchette for Focus Features. This film is set, let me find y'all a picture of Tar, honey, because Miss Cate Blanchette is letting us have it in all her glory. I was like, oh my God, I couldn't take it. All right. So Cate Blanchette, I'm sorry. So set in the international world of classical music, this film centers on Lydia Tarr, widely considered one of the greatest living composer conductors and first ever female chief conductor of a major German orchestra. When I tell you that this film is the best role that Cate Blanchett has done to date, I kid you not. Because when I tell you what is demanded of her in this role in terms of characterizations and where she has to go and pull deep from to pull Lydia Tarr off, it's no joke. It is no joke. This is her best role to date because she is showing what it's like to be a female conductor who's a mother, who's a daughter, who's a confidant rather, who's a mentor, but how all of that and the demands of her life and personal and professional cause her to kind of go a little insane a little bit, right? And it's fascinating. It's a fascinating film to watch. I mean, the whole first half of the movie is Cate Blanchett delivering these really long monologues, and they're riveting, and you just can't take your eyes off of her. It's ridiculous. She's definitely going to be one of the front runners when it comes to Oscar conversations, if they haven't started talking about that already, which I'm pretty sure they have. And the classical score is just butter, and it's totally worth investing in that soundtrack, whether you like classical music or not. All right, so those are the films that I saw at the New York Film Festival thus far. Those are some that I want to see, and I wanted to make sure that you knew all about them. All right, let's talk about this Hocus Pocus too. Let's lighten it up a little bit. Baby, the witches are back. Miss Sarah Jessica Parker, Miss Bette Midler, and Miss Kathy Najimy are re-originating their roles as Winifred, Sarah, and Mary. The Sanford sisters, baby, they are so funny. I just could not take it. So I'm gonna come back and give you a little history lesson on uh Hocus Pocus 2, because in doing some research I found out a few things. So let me just enlighten you to what I found out. So the original film scored 2 stars on Rotten Tomatoes and was deemed mediocre, but fans don't care and they disagreed. The cast of Hocus Pocus, they got together for this virtual reunion special in October 2000 that was hosted by Elvira to benefit the New York Restoration Project. The one-time only event was made available only to fans who bought tickets to watch that night. And baby, the Sanderson sisters were there in full effect, along with John Stamos, Glenn Close, Billy Crystal, Adam Lambert, Jamie Lee Curtis, and Elvira herself. Sarah Jessica Parker. Now you'll find this really interesting. Sarah Jessica Parker, who plays Sarah, ironically enough, plays a witch who was executed during the Salem witch trials in Hocus Pocus, right? But while researching her family for the TV show on ABC, Who Do You Think You Are?, Sarah was shocked to discover that her 10th great grandmother, Esther Elwell, was arrested in Salem in the late 1600s for committing sundry acts of witchcraft and choking a neighbor to death. Esther's case never went to court. She escaped with her life, and the accusation ended in the Salem witch trials. Sarah Jessica Parker said it has changed everything about who she thought she was, and she gave one of her daughters, Elwell, as her middle name. That's bananas. Can you imagine you are playing a witch in the Salem witch trials and find out that you have a witch in your genealogy? That's just crazy. Let's just talk about the fact when they sing that song, "The Witches Are Back," I was all for it. Listen, I'm all for Bette Midler singing anything. I've worked with Kathy Najimy before. Kathy Najimy directed me in a cabaret show in New York called Back to Bacharach. And I worked with Sarah Jessica Parker in the revival of How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying that starred Matthew Broderick, her now husband, but they were dating at that time. And so they were playing um, uh, romantic leads in the musical that we did together. So the only person I don't know in the cast is Bette Midler. So I was happy to see that they were able to reunite for this. The difference between Hocus Pocus 2 and the original one is that the original one was directed by Kenny Ortega. This one is directed by a female this time around. And Ann Fletcher. It's directed by Ann Fletcher, and it has a very, very diverse cast from the last time, featuring Whitney Peak as Becca, Sam Richardson as Gilbert. And let me just give a kudos and snap and clap to the younger actresses. Little Miss Kitchen, who plays young Mary, Juju Journey Brenner, who plays young Sarah, and Taylor Henderson, who plays young Winifred. Their characterizations of the grown-up witches is spot on, and I give all the praise and kudos to Ann Fletcher for helping to guide these young ladies because they did the daggone thing. This is a story about bonding sisterhood more than anything else. It's fluffy, it's fun, it's light, it's just in time for Halloween. It doesn't take itself too seriously. And it deals with two women who accidentally bring back the Sanderson sisters to modern day Salem, and they have to figure out how to stop the child hungry witches from wreaking havoc on the world. This is a fun one, y'all. Anybody in the family can see it. I kind of loved it. And it's one of those things that I kind of want to see again and again and again and again and again. So make sure you check it out. Hocus Pocus 2 is coming to a theater near you, baby, with the Sanderson sisters starring Sarah Jessica Parker, Bette Midler, and Kathy Najimy. Yes, there they are in the woods. Okay, so Avatar is back in the theaters. It was written in 2009. Well, not written. It was originally released in 2009, and now it's being re-released by Walt Disney Studios and 20th Century Fox. Sam Worthington is Jake Sully. He's kind of part Avatar, part man. Joey Saldana plays Neytiri. And Sigourney Weaver, you know, she just can't stay away from an alien. She's in this film, and Stephen Lang plays Colonel Miles. This film was groundbreaking for the time because of its cinematic technology at that time. Nobody had ever seen anything like Avatar. Since Avatar, we've seen a zillion films look like this, so there's that whole copycat thing going on. But at the time, it was groundbreaking for what it did. And it also was groundbreaking in the same way that James Cameron made Titanic groundbreaking, making actors afraid for their life in the future by using animatic actors when the ship was sinking. But I say go check out Avatar. And this is one of those films that if you see it on a TV screen, it just doesn't have the same impact than if you see it in a live movie theater. So I say go check it out. Let me just show you this picture of Woody Harrelson in the Triangle of Sadness. And then here's the cast members from that. I want to show you that. All right. So now for the film that we came to talk about, Luckiest Girl Alive. This is based on a book, like I was telling y'all early on in the broadcast. It's based on a book by Jessica Knoll. See, I had her name wrong. It's Jessica Knoll. Jessica Knoll. It's based on a book by her. And it stars Mila Kunis, Kiera Ariella, as the young Ani, and Mila Kunis is the grown Ani. And it's based on incidents from Jessica's life, which involve a school shooting. And I don't want to tell you too much about it because if I start talking about it, it's really going to ruin things. But what I will tell you is that Mila Kunis is crushing it in this film. She's crushing it all the way down. Just I can't even begin to tell you how much she's crushing it. Mostly because when you watch her in this film, you're instantly reminded of about what she did when she was doing the Black Swan in her Oscar nominated role in the Black Swan. It's that kind of intense performance, and she is real, is based in reality, is really grounded and rooted, and she does a great job. And so she plays Ani Finelli, who is a woman in New York who seems to have things under control, but is faced with this trauma, the school shooting, that makes her life unravel. What I would like to say about Ani Finelli and Mila's portrayal of her is that she does what she has to do to run away from her past. And what she's really doing is reinventing herself and the relationships of the people that she's having to navigate with to try to get away. But this is the thing, you can't run away from your past because you can't run away from you. So having said that, let me go ahead and play these first couple of interviews for you. The first one is with young Ani, played by Kiara Arialia, and she talks about collaborating with Mila on getting the younger version a little closer to what the older version is so that it's not too far-fetched. So take a look and a listen to this interview with Kiara Arialia from The Luckiest Girl Alive. Is this one line where somebody says the past never really goes away, it's just the past. Yeah. And I want to know what that means for you in inhabiting this particular part.
I think it means that just because something isn't currently happening doesn't mean that it can't, kind of overtake you and overcome you in the current moment. I think that, our past experiences affect the people that we become in the future. And I think that you can really see that over the course of Ani's journey. I mean, she's a fully grown woman living her life, and, trauma, it can stay with you and it can impact you for a long time. So it definitely makes a huge impact on Ani and this movie as a whole.
Did you collaborate with Mila at all? Because you're playing the younger version of what she's playing as a grown woman.
Yeah.
Did you guys collaborate at all to see how you guys can make it similar but different?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I was fortunate enough to kind of chat with her before we started filming. So we got on a Zoom together and we were kind of talking about the character and what our vision was for her, her backstory and her experiences from a young age, and also the way we wanted her to sound and walk and talk and kind of her mannerisms and all of that. I think that it was such a wonderful opportunity to be able to collaborate with an actress as incredible as Mila over a role. I mean, who's fortunate enough to do that?
You were.
Luckily.
So let's talk a little bit about that one crucial scene in the school.
Yeah.
How traumatic was that for you? Because this is the thing. In real life, most kids that would be your age have only done drills. They haven't done the real thing. So to be inhabiting that in the course of a film and doing the real thing from beginning to end, how did that impact you?
I mean, I think that it's a terrifying reality that we're living with today, and it is something that, shouldn't exist, but unfortunately it does. And I think that I'm really grateful and fortunate that I was in a safe and protected environment where I was able to film this, for a movie and not real life. And I can't imagine, what children and families are struggling with and going through today. That being said, I think that it's, a story that needs to be told and a journey that a lot of people are, struggling with and going through right now, and not talking about it and ignoring it doesn't make it go away. So hopefully our film will bring a little bit of light to, the subject matter and, bring more conversations up, which is, I think, really what needs to be talked about right now.
So we know this is loosely based on Jessica. What piece of advice did you get from Jessica about inhabiting this role? Because this is her life, this is her experience.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't say enough nice things about Jessica, honestly. I mean, she's like a fantastic woman, a fantastic writer. I mean, just an all-around really good person. And we talked a bit, obviously, before filming as well. I mean, I didn't meet her until I was already in Toronto, but I asked her a lot of questions about her experiences and about her life, and I felt very lucky and touched and honored that she was willing to talk with me about it and share part of her story. And I think that, being Ani was like one of the most amazing experiences I've had in my life thus far. So, I'm very grateful for the opportunity.
Now, what you didn't see was her shoes. Her shoes were slamming. And I am grateful for the opportunity that you spoke to me, Miss Thing, because you were doing the daggum thing. You did it all day long, and I was really happy to talk to you. Now, let's talk to Miss Jessica Knoll and Mr. Mike Barber. Side note, Mike Barber is really known for doing his directing gigs over at The Handmaid's Tale. So that would explain why the intensity and the drama is so yummy and I can't even find the adjectives, but you'll see what I mean when we talk to them. This is Miss Jessica Knoll and Mike Barker, the director and author and writer and screenplay writer for The Luckiest Girl Alive on Netflix.
Hi.
People laughing, y'all. I'm still laughing about you calling my dress a frog. That is hilarious. I love that though. It sounds so much better when you say it.
Right? Very dapper.
But let's talk a little bit about The Luckiest Girl. There's a quote that says, "The past never really goes away. It's just still the past." Can you tell me what that means for both of you in dealing with this particular project?
Well, it's a Faulkner quote, and it's actually talking about racism, saying that the past is never really dead. It's not even past. How can we say that racism is in the past when it's still happening? I mean, I think he said this in like the 50s or 60s, but when it's still happening now. And to me, it was a very appropriate quote to use about this in relation to survivors of sexual assault, because how can you say this happened to you in the past, the sexual assault, you can turn the page, you can be past it, when we still haven't really made great strides in terms of supporting women who have been through this, prosecuting the people who commit these crimes. It's, rape is still the most underreported and under-prosecuted rape in this country. So that quote to me just felt so poignant about this topic in particular, and about this story.
Yeah, I think, it sort of sums up Mila's journey in the film as well. This idea that she seemingly has everything, but actually it's her past that's really holding her back, and until she starts to actually face that past and bring it back into the present, that she's never going to get anywhere, and that's the journey.
Absolutely. What was it about Jessica's book that made you go, you know what, I think I want to do this?
Well, first of all, it's a really interesting, it's a really fun book. Jessica writes with a real wit, and it just felt like it was full of directorial challenges. I mean, it's so, it's a really complicated path to tread. There's a tonal balance to it, which is really tricky, which I kind of really, really love. But most of all, I think I really sort of fell in love with Tiffany, Tiffany who becomes Arnie. And then when I met Jessica and I sort of equated all these things together, because it was it's quite a daunting prospect because there's so much going on. But once I met Jessica and we sort of found a path through it very quickly, we found a friendship very quickly. And, so I sort of leapt in. And here I am.
I love it. He leapt in. He's like, hey.
Yeah.
And Jessica, what was it about Mike that made you go, he's the perfect director for this?
Firstly, it was his work on The Handmaid's Tale. And, at the time that we met, it was, I think Handmaid's Tale was in its first season. So, I was properly obsessed with it. And I thought that,
all are.
Yeah, and I thought that tonally it was right there in terms of some material that's dark, but there was Elizabeth Moss, even with her voiceover, there's always something tongue in cheek or with a little bit of edge to what she's saying. And I just thought this is kind of, the tone we need to strike. And it's a really fine needle to thread. It is. And I feel like we were always hearing that from producers and executives, and we would say no, it's not that bad. But then remember when we got on set and we were actually doing it, we're like, oh, now we see what they're talking about. It was much more challenging than I think either of us thought it might be. But I think the biggest thing is that we share a sort of perspective, a sort of dark sense of humor about certain things, a sort of irreverence. And that's very important to this character and to this story, and that we both really wanted to come through in the film.
And was taking this off the page to the screen, was it more traumatic for you than cathartic, or vice versa?
Writing the book was cathartic. Taking it from the page to screen at first was absolutely thrilling and a new challenge, a new skill and craft that I was learning and developing. And then it became very tedious because there are so many rewrites. I must have rewritten it close to 100 times over the years. Easily.
Well, yeah, but she's pretty. She doesn't mean she's written the whole script 100 times, but there's lots of scenes we changed, and and it evolved, and the things things evolved, and we changed one of the things. We play with the structure. Yeah. We play with the structure quite a bit, and then and then sort of finding characters that don't have as much, that they're more important in the novel than they are in the film.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, she's pretty amazing at rewriting, because as dispirited as you were at times, you always delivered.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's writing a book is much more of a solitary endeavor, and you have your one editor, and that's kind of and then you might have like a couple readers, people you trust, but on a film, it's much more collaborative, and that is, I think it's a double-edged sword. Like, I think it can produce some of the best work when you have, like we did, amazing producers and executives. But at the same time, if everyone agrees there is a problem, but everyone has a different idea about how to fix the problem, it can be very, very challenging.
Cool. Well, in closing it out, I just want to use one of your British terms. Good on you for bringing me a project that was so wonderful and intrinsic and intriguing, and I couldn't keep my eyes off of it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Carla.
Very
That's
much.
so nice.
Yeah, really,
thank you.
Oh, no problem. Thank you.
Okay.
I meant what I said, y'all. It's a really good project, and it's going to be on Netflix on October 7th. So in closing it out, let's talk to Miss Mila Kunis, who, not for nothing, but she said the Curvy Critic is her new favorite outlet. Just saying. Hey, Miss Mila.
The Curvy Film Critic?
Yes, girl, the
That's
Curvy Film
amazing.
Critic.
Go on. This is
Yes,
great.
girl, I'm curvy and I'm a film critic. What you gonna do?
It. Oh my God, this makes me so happy.
You're hilarious. So I heard you say that Jessica is one of your favorite writers to work with. Why did you say that?
So when this project started, when it was brought to me, they had a version of the script. And you never want to come into a project and go, I like this part and I like this part, and I'd like to take this giant part and completely redo it. And then have that met with open arms and an invitation. And so when I read the original draft, I was like, this is great, this is great, this. And I didn't know how to say it. I was like, I'd like to work on this. And she was like, I'm here. And then she was so it is her character. It is part her. And you never... it's always a little bit nerve-wracking to ask the writer for notes on a character that's not only written by them, but is them to a certain extent. And she could not have been more incredible at being able to separate herself from the character that she not only has developed, written, but so madly fell in love with, and allowed me to put myself into it with open arms. And that never happens. It really doesn't. It has met with a lot of pushback and a lot of fight. And she was one of the only writers that I've ever worked with that was so incredible at taking my really bad note and making it better.
Cool. I love that.
Yeah.
And so there's this one quote that says, the past never really goes away. It's just the past. What does that mean for you in playing Ani?
I think that it's about the character figuring out that it's not about forgetting what happened. It's about allowing it to happen, digesting it, and moving it forward. It's a little bit going to the theory that you can take ownership of your actions. You don't have to blame yourself for them. You don't have to find blame. They just happen. They are what they are. See if you can grow and learn from them and then move on. It's like Adler's theory of psychology a little bit. And so I think the past is just the past. It happened in the past. It is there. We don't need to relive it. We don't need to keep talking about it. Of course, our character does, because she never dealt with it.
Yes. So in my community, we have this thing called code switching. And Ani does a lot of that.
My community also.
Okay, I feel you. And Ani does a lot of that in the film. Does Mila have to code switch sometimes too?
No, I do. I would lie if I told you I didn't. I think that with it's not even code switching when it comes to like different social circles. It is just I'm a very different person when I'm with my parents than I am sitting in front of you. I'm a very different person when I'm with my husband than I am when I'm with my children. Mm-hmm. And I think we all are. I don't know if my code switching is as extreme as maybe others, but I've also found myself not being very good at it. Like I'm not, like I found it so much easier to just be a same type of version of me, like 1A, 1B, 1C versus like this is person A, that's person D. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I feel you.
Like a little bit changes, but not very much.
I feel you. How did playing Ani change you though? Because it had to have changed you a little bit on the inside.
Oftentimes it's not because you don't want to judge your character. Your character's not you. And you can't go into being like, well, I wouldn't do that. Right, but they did, and you have to understand why, and you have to figure out why, and that oftentimes allows you to just become a more sympathetic person in general if you start believing the actions of these characters. So in her world, there was a specific incident that happened with the teacher that I was like, woof, And I had to find like and understand like what is it that drew her to this one particular situation and find empathy in that. And also in like the ability, you know, what happened at the end of the film with her and her fiance and her not being, because you wanted it to be different. Like you so wanted her to either like take ownership of it, and it feels so haphazard. Like he stumbles upon this article, which then leads them to have that conversation that leads to something else. And, you know, you're just like, why? She's such a strong character. Why can't she just go to him, like go proactively to him and talk to him? And so it's also finding like the idea to forgive yourself. And I think that was something that this character allowed me to probably try to like figure out if I was to over psychoanalyze. It's just the idea of forgiving oneself.
Diva, it was a pleasure to meet you. You are more stunning in person than I could have ever imagined. Thank you so much for your time. Girl, yes.
You're
I call a spade, honey. I'm the Curvy Film Critic.
I love Curvy Film Critic. My new favorite outlet.
I love her for saying that. She just don't know. I'm going to have all kinds of tags. I'm going to have cards made up with her saying that my outlet is her new favorite outlet. But let me just thank one more time Mr. Mike Barber, Miss Jessica Knoll, Miss Kiara Aurelia, and Miss Mila Kunis for talking to me about The Luckiest Girl Alive, which drops on Netflix on October 7th. Thank y'all for tuning in. This was a long one. It was a film festival. They're probably going to be a little longer, not a little longer. They're probably going to be close to this, and I'm going to try to make them shorter. I'm doing the best I can, but child, I'm trying to punch buttons and talk and do everything all at the same time, and it's a lot going on. But what I will tell you is, again, if this is your first time joining me, give me a big thumbs up to let me know that you were here, whether you've seen it live, whether you've seen it taped, whether you catch it whenever you catch it. I appreciate anytime you catch it. I appreciate the fact that you take some time out of your day to watch it. Subscribe to the channel if you are on YouTube. Click the bell for notifications if you are on YouTube. And you guys, I love y'all. Thank you so much for making me feel special, making me feel welcome in this space. I really love doing it. I love bringing these movies to you guys and telling you about them. Next week, for my podcast next week, I got a few little movies, but I got a live guest. And so I'm going to spend a good portion of the time with the live guest. I'm not going to tell you who she is. Oops, I said she. I'm not going to tell you who she is, but you will recognize her. She's been in some films that you love, and worked with some stars that you love. And she is hilarious. So that's all I'm going to say about that. And I'll throw some teasers out throughout the week. But until the next time, y'all, love, peace, and hair grease. Wash them hands. Wear a mask if you feel the need to. You know, I do it just because I don't want to get sick. It's flu season too. I'm just saying. But so there's all of that. And so I'll catch y'all next Monday at 5:00. Oh, one more thing. I'm going to shift the show back to Sundays at 5:00. I had shifted it to Mondays at 5:00 because my producer at the time, that was the only day that she was available, but I am going to shift it back to Sundays, and I'm not going to do it right now, but I probably will do it beginning the first of the year. So I'm just going to let you know, but for right now, we're still going to be on Mondays at 5:00. And if I can't do it on Mondays at 5:00, I will pre-tape it and put it up on Sundays at 5:00. Okay, you guys? So love, peace, and hair grease until the next time. Deuces.